Hello and welcome back to the Wizard's Chest. Once again, with me is Gisela Hoffman, Hannah Kroger's daughter, and Dave Smith. And in this segment, I want to talk strictly about the kids and helping them with a lot of the challenges we're seeing across the board through all aspects of society. By that, I'm talking about the brain integration that you guys work with, the autism and Asperger's, which has gone epidemic through the society. We also want to talk about ADD and some of those aspects that you guys work with, and all kinds of different things about the energetic healing and the use of scalar technology to broadcast the different vibratory remedies or homeopathic remedies to someone. And just in my instance, just to give you an idea of the audience, I tested on the machine as well as I have two of my grandkids on the Access, Hannah. We got the book over here. This is the little bit of the novel. It's Help One Another, and this is an anthology of the teachings of Hannah Kroger and all of her remedies. And this is what a lot of the protocols in the program are based on, as well as anything additional information that gets downloaded as you guys are through it, correct? Well, in my particular instance, I have had a situation that I did get checked out this last fall where my blood chemistry, the amount of white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets was out of balance. Basically, one of the gene expressions had gone a little bit off, and it's called a JAK2 gene mutation. The hematologist had no fix for it other than to give me a prescription med for sickle cell anemia, which I chose not to take. They wanted to do additional testing, such as a biopsy in the marrow itself, and I refused that as well. But I used it as a diagnostic because the hospital and his office has the capability of doing a much better blood count for me that I could check, but I wanted to do my own therapies myself, and I'm doing 5 different protocols. Yours is one of them. So last time I visited here about a little over a month ago, Gisela ran me through the program, and so I've been on the protocol for about a month, and my wife has the capability of looking at the blood with a dark field microscope, and my blood, not in the first couple of weeks, but after literally just this last week, we saw a huge shift in my blood where I bet you it was as much as 80% healed. And granted, it's not the only protocol I'm doing. I'm doing different meditations, much like what you were referencing with your own material with the lead, but I'm doing different meditations and healing work within. But I feel very strongly that the protocols we were running had a huge effect, and I look forward after we're done here today to do a little upgrade and update to see where it's showing in the computer program. Within that, I've seen my own shift within that for my stuff, but I want to talk about the kids. And let's talk about really all 3 of the major scenarios that we're seeing with the kids. And I want to talk more about the electronics that we were talking about over lunch as well. So let's talk about ADD. That's a biggie pretty much across the board that the society labels. We know with the shifts in consciousness, these kids that are coming in are tuned for a different world than I was when I was born, when I grew up in the 50s. And yet, because they're accessing so much information and they're more sensitive, so they're picking up energy from everybody around them, one of the ways they dissipate energy is through movement. But there's another aspect to that, and that's focus within the brain. what have you guys seen, and some of the examples that you guys have been able to do with the kids you've worked with Access HANA, and talk about some of your favorite stories.
Well, I want to start by just considering what you said about growing up in the 50s. The environment of the 50s was very different than today's environment.
You think?
And, and I always tell my kids, when I was your age,
Back in the day,
we had one TV channel. But there's a lot of truth to that. I think that today's children that are exhibiting a lot of neurological confusion. We'll just start with that word to begin with. It's the brain as it develops. When you're a toddler, when you're a baby to a toddler and growing through, you're supposed to be experiencing situations that enhance your neurological efficiency. And that's not happening anymore nowadays, because I see in the grocery stores, and I see in the airports, and I see in people, so many parents, so many families allow their kids to have the TV as the babysitter, or they hand them the tablet to keep them quiet in the grocery store. And make no mistake about it, that is very unnatural. When you compare that to the history of mankind in general, we didn't have this for thousands, if not millions of years. We didn't have that kind of stimulation. And what happens there is with these screens and this, it's a band of information, a data stream, if you will, that's coming into my brain through my eyes and my ears. If I'm watching TV, it's through the eyes and the ears. Well, as it comes in and comes in and comes in, there's a lot of information that a brain is supposed to deal with. It is supposed to look at it and say, is this important? Is this not important? What am I going to do with this information? Can I react to it? Can I express it back out? But in today's world, where we have so much of neurological disorders with our kids, it's because it's one of the reasons, certainly, is that one of the big differences is the amount of screen time, the amount of this passive taking in rather than an exploratory based upon a self choice to go out and experience the world. Now we just sit on our couch and we get this constant stream coming in. Well, what that does neurologically is it makes your brain very adept at what I would call short attention span theater. Because if you watch a TV show, you watch a TV commercial for 30 seconds, there's going to be at least a dozen different camera shots in that 30 seconds, angles. And it's a different perspective. And so your brain is going to have to try to compensate or accept it. It's the same with the sound. On a 30-second commercial, there's 3 or 4 soundtracks. And so our brain is becoming hardwired at that developmental age to not be able to pay attention for more than a couple of seconds. Because the stream keeps shifting. It's like a car without a clutch.
My yoga teacher, along those lines, said that even as little as 5 years ago, our timing for how long we could take a focus was 12 seconds. It's now down to 8.
Oh yeah.
And a goldfish can focus for 9.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think I get a gold. I'm probably at a silverfish right now. Bronze.
I'm not sure how much, but it's along the same lines. Yeah, they're testing it.
The reason why, though, is because as I'm watching TV as a child and it's streaming in, the brain, the human body develops itself according to need, immediate needs. And the immediate need is to try to take in all of this visual and all this auditory. And so the channel, the bandwidth keeps expanding naturally because it's a response mechanism within the human body to say, I need more of this skill. In this case, the skill is this stream of data. But because kids are watching so much of this hourly, on a daily basis, when is the time for them to ponder it? Where is their time to process it, to digest it, to express it back out.
As you said, to express it off camera. They don't have that. And yet you taught at Waldorf, and you were describing how you and the other teachers could watch a child out there on the playground and tell by how they were acting if they were watching cartoons or not, or many different things.
How much that individual is exposed to artificial life, because that's what it comes down to. Is when you live on the couch and all you do is watch TV, you really do think that reality is 50 people jumping out of an airplane and fighting amongst each other on a desert island to earn $1 million, while there's a crew of 400 with cameras watching you do this. That's reality. That's reality for people that sit on the couch. Now, for me, reality is, wow, I work at McDonald's and I flip hamburgers all day long. For me, reality is walking down the street and hearing the dog bark. But for little children, when you're 1 year old and you already have the tablet in front of you, your reality is this two-dimensional projection. And it becomes this massive conduit, this broadband of this incoming stream that you never have a chance to push back out. So these kids will grow up with short attention spans, and they're constantly looking for a new fix, because that new fix was trained into their brain in those commercials, in those TV shows with multiple camera angles going off at once, with multiple soundtracks. And they never have a chance to process that, because it's just constant. It's just, you're just constantly getting hit by a fire hydrant. They can't. Public school, any kid that grows up in that environment, they are the ones that you when, as a teacher, I taught middle school for 15 years. As a teacher, you recognize that they can't express themselves verbally, socially interact in a healthy manner, because they don't have the wiring. It's too small. It wasn't used enough. It's like you use your muscles or you lose them. Or if you use your one muscle, then it becomes this big monstrous thing.
And it's out of balance.
Yeah, and it's out of balance. So this is how the challenge that kids are growing up with. So when people want to talk about, the crystal kids, the indigo kids, the kids of this generation, that generation, to me, the real question is the wiring of our brain in the developmental age, is it healthy?
And in today's society.
Right. Because, to put it into an organic form, it's not organic. It's not natural for cavemen to sit on a couch and watch a picture of something else happening. That's not natural. And we can't cope with that yet. And for those of us that didn't grow up with cell phones in our hand from the age of birth, it's very difficult for us to recognize the real danger. But as we see more and more of this coming, now it's been how many years? It's almost 20, 25 years of this level of things. And before that, it was just when cable TV came out, how it dumbed down America. And there is
all of a sudden you had 150 channels or 100 channels initially instead of 3.
Right.
And no remote control. And I had to get up and change the channel.
Yeah, you were the remote control.
Yeah.